Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating 70-year-old legal case with a really strange twist. It's a story about a police chief who got fired for negligence, but his entire career ended up hinging not on what he did, but on a single overlooked sentence in a rulebook. It's a perfect example of how sometimes the procedure is everything.
So, can you be legally fired by an illegal committee? I mean, really think about that. This is the exact question Police Chief Adriano Festejo was facing, and the answer was going to change everything for him. His whole case, everything, boils down to this one crucial point about power and procedure. So let's see how it all started.
All right, so let's set the scene. It's 1950. Adriano Festejo is a chief of police in the Philippines, and he finds himself in some serious trouble after what seemed like a routine incident just completely spirals out of control.
So, what was he accused of? Officially, laxity and negligence in the custody of prisoners. The reason? A prisoner had escaped on his watch. And this wasn't just a slap on the wrist. This was a charge serious enough to end his whole career.
And things escalated with incredible speed. Just think about this timeline. A complaint gets filed on April 1st. By April 21st, that's only 20 days later, he's already suspended from duty. And on that very same day, the municipal council creates a special 3-person integrity board just to investigate him. Things were moving fast.
Okay, so the investigation starts, right? But Festejo's lawyer immediately sees a problem, a big one. And it had nothing to do with the prisoner escaping. It was all about who was doing the investigating. And this objection would become the central pillar of his entire case. He basically argued that this specially created integrity board had no legal power, no jurisdiction to investigate him. Think about it like this. Imagine you get in trouble at work, and instead of HR investigating, your boss just picks 3 random coworkers to decide your fate. You'd probably say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that, right? Well, that's exactly what Festejo was arguing.
But they didn't listen. His objection was totally overruled. So Festejo, convinced that this whole thing was illegal from the get-go, makes a really bold move. He just refuses to participate at all.
And that didn't stop the board, not one bit. They just went ahead without him, hearing only the other side of the story. And, well, you can probably guess what happened next.
A few months later, bam, the 3-person board finds him guilty as charged.
And with that decision in hand, the mayor makes it official. Festejo is fired. Just like that. After months of suspension, his career was over.
So Festejo starts fighting back. He tries everything. He appeals to the lower courts, but they throw his case out on a technicality, said he filed too late. He sends petitions to the president, to the Secretary of the Interior. Nothing. Every single door gets slammed in his face. It really looked like it was over.
But he doesn't give up. His case finally makes it all the way to the Supreme Court. And this is where it gets really interesting, because this whole complicated mess suddenly boils down to the exact wording of a single law. This was the smoking gun they'd been looking for.
And here it is. This is Festejo's entire argument, right here in black and white. You see, the old law, the one from 1917, was pretty flexible. It said an investigation could be done by the full council or a smaller committee of 3. But look at the new law, the one that was in effect for his case. That or a committee part, it's gone. Vanished. It now required the investigation to be done by the entire municipal council. That special integrity board, it was never, ever a legal option under the new rules.
And for the Supreme Court, this wasn't just some tiny little technicality. This was it, the fatal flaw. The whole case against him was built on sand, and this one detail was about to wash it all away.
The court's decision came down to this really powerful legal idea, void ab initio. It's a fancy Latin term that just means void from the beginning. So in the eyes of the law, the investigation wasn't just flawed or unfair, it's like it never even happened.
And their reasoning was just a simple, powerful chain of logic. Check this out. 1, the new law says the entire council has to investigate. 2, only a 3-person committee investigated Festejo. So 3, that board had 0 legal jurisdiction. 4, an investigation by an illegal body is completely void. Which leads to the final point, 5. A void investigation can't possibly produce a valid decision. It's legally impossible. You can't be fired based on a process that, legally speaking, never existed in the first place.
And that's what led to the final brilliant twist in this story. See, the law had a time limit. A decision had to be made within 60 days. But because the board's guilty verdict was void, remember, it never legally happened, that means no valid decision was ever made. The 60-day clock just kept ticking, and then it ran out. And that triggered a failsafe built right into the law, automatic reinstatement.
And that was it. The Supreme Court reversed the lower court's decision. It issued what's called a writ of mandamus, which is basically a direct, unmissable order, forcing the town to immediately reinstate Adriano Festejo to his position as chief of police. After all that, his fight was finally over.
So, when you look back, this case wasn't really about a prisoner escaping, was it? It was about something much bigger: due process. It shows us that how a decision gets made can be just as important, if not more important, than the decision itself. Procedure isn't just red tape. It's the guardrail that protects all of us from the arbitrary use of power. Makes you think, right?